We do all kinds of things here at Word in Your Ear.
Videocasts like this.
Podcasts like this.
Crowdcast events with famous authors.
Live quizzes.
And we can guarantee to make your next birthday one you'll never forget.
There's only one way to guarantee getting all of this, to getting it before anybody else, and that's to sign on to be a supporter on Patreon.
Full details at this address.
Word in Your Attic, a Zoom with a view.
All right, welcome to another Word in Your Attic, where we're shinning down the digital drain pipe of our old mate and friend of the pod, Jim White. Hello, Jim. Hey.
Hello. How are you?
Great to see you.
Where do we find you, Jim?
You find me, I don't have an attic. I already feel a fraud. I don't have an attic. So you find me in the basement.
Where's your basement?
My basement is in my house in Oxford.
Oh, right. Okay. So Jim, for those who aren't aware, spends most of his time writing about sport, really.
I do. I've spent a lot of time this week writing about Diego Maradona.
Well, I've read them. They've been fantastic. Wonderful pieces.
Thank you.
It's a 3-day national holiday out there, isn't it?
3-day of national holiday, though in Buenos Aires. Have you ever been to Buenos Aires?
No, I haven't. No.
Buenos Aires, inevitably, 3 days of national holiday turns into 2 days of rioting.
So
what they enjoy.
So how's life as a sports journalist been in the last 8 months? What's happened?
Very strange. A recognition that in sport the fans are everything is one of the things. Fascinating. I've been to a lot of football matches with no crowds.
Oh, I want to hear about this.
Yes, I do.
You can. It's very, very different, and it's different in many ways. There's a different in the rhythm of the thing. I think that the crowd delivers a kind of rhythm to the whole game. So the players definitely draw from it, and that kind of, that kind of sense of agitation. You go to matches, David, that kind of sense of agitation you get in a crowd where things aren't going right, that nervous energy. Yeah. And I think its absence is really, really noticeable. But one of the things that you find is that you can hear the players. So you can hear what they're saying to each other because there's nobody there. You can hear them totally. And I went to see, back in June, Project Restart, I went to Bournemouth against Newcastle. Newcastle's goalkeeper is a guy called Martin Dubravka, who's Slovakian, but has obviously been in Newcastle a long time because has a very, very booming Geordie accent. And at one point was shouting, "Look over your shoulder," which I thought was brilliant for a Slovakian.
No, it fascinates me. I find it frustrating watching matches on the TV. I actually think the commentators are shut up because I want to hear what's being shouted.
Absolutely.
And from the sidelines.
And interestingly, coaches are by definition control freaks, and they've suddenly got this opportunity to be heard, and some of them can't shut up. I mean, they're telling everyone, people, they cannot keep quiet, and it must be like a kind of weird background noise for the players, this constant yelling of instruction. And I have to say, this is very rude of me, but some of it just seems the most banal stuff. Get rid.
Yeah.
Really, you needed to tell me that.
That's it. Yeah.
I was very encouraged to, and I noticed this again last night watching Tottenham and Ludogorets, that still, even though the players come from all points of the compass, obviously, the expression "man on" still hangs on. It's completely international language, isn't it?
Absolutely. And every time there's a corner, someone will shout from the bench, "Clear it!" What? Well, what else are they going to do? What, the defence, they're going to stand there and not do it? And it's just bizarre.
What's your feeling about the home advantage situation?
Well, that's a really interesting one.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It really is, because I think going back to that sense of drive and urgency and rhythm, I think that teams aren't picking that up, and therefore the visiting team isn't intimidated in any way. I don't mean that when you turn up, you're scared because they're going to shout at you. It's just that the noise creates an energy that is difficult to battle against.
True.
Yeah. You're so right about the key crowd noise is not the really loud noise. It's the hubbub, isn't it?
It's the hubbub.
The hubbub of anxiety after 20 minutes. And as a Spurs fan, I'm very familiar with this.
Well, you would be. And I wonder, there are certain clubs, aren't there? Like Spurs, West Ham, Everton, where the home fans get very agitated very quickly. And I wonder actually, I haven't checked this out. I wonder actually whether people like West Ham,
all doing quite
and Everton
well.
do much better as a result.
All doing quite
you
well.
not being there.
Yes, absolutely. It's the absence of supporters. So have you been? Obviously, you've been at home like most of us. You've been at home more than ordinarily. Have you been going through your souvenirs and going through your stuff and thinking, why have I hung on to this?
Why have I got 6 copies of this?
Yes.
Yeah.
So now's we like to feel word in your answer because it's a little bit of a social service. We allow you to share this stuff with a wider public.
Okay.
So what have you got to show us, Jim?
Well, I think we're talking about sports reporting. I think this is. Can you see that? That's a laminate. That's a laminate of. It's my accreditation for the Olympic Games in
which year?
2004. 2004.
Right, yeah.
So where was that?
That was in Athens. Now, quite amusing. You see that picture there.
Who is it?
It must be my grandson, I would have thought. But I've always noted that about laminate accreditations. The picture byline is always much younger than the person who's wearing it. Yeah. So, I remember going to see the Tour de France a long time ago, and there were all these kind of overweight middle-aged blokes with kind of French matinee idol pictures on their laminates around their necks. And the gap is huge. But these things become part of you because it's access all areas. Actually reminds me of Man Half Biscuit. They wrote a song about it. I think it's called The King of High Vis, which was, he's always got a laminate that can get him in anywhere. And these lanyards, they become, because they give you access to anything, they become your passport, and you wear them, and the first thing you do is put them on and wear them. And people become so addicted to their lanyards. I remember coming back from Rio in 2016. The games were over. They've been over a couple of days, and I saw someone at the airport wearing his laminate. Still had it, as if that was going to get him onto the plane or something.
You would do.
Well, so loss of identity without it. It's status,
loss of
isn't
identity.
It? That's who I am. Yeah,
everything. And then in the back of it, I've got various tickets. I've got what's this one? I don't know what this is. Oh, that's a swimming. This is the closing ceremony. So there you go.
Oh,
so sometimes clearly you needed a ticket as well as a laminate.
But generally speaking, with an Olympics laminate, can you just wander around and think, I fancy watching the 100 meters final today? I'll just turn up and get.
That is the beauty of it. Yes, you can. I mean, there are certain events which are restricted numbers and are ticketed and so on, but generally you can. The brilliance about being a reporter at the Olympic Games is that half the sports, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're seeing. So, you turn up to dressage.
Why are they doing that? That's right.
Not a clue. Dressage. I remember going to see Tom Daley diving. And unless Tom Daley did a belly flop, I wouldn't know whether he was good, bad, or indifferent. So what you do is you have to make sure that you sit next to the bloke from Dive Monthly in the press room. And the bloke from Dive Monthly can tell you, oh, well, that was a quadruple backflip. Oh, right. And the whole of the Olympics is full of reporters winging it because they haven't got a clue, but finding the bloke from Horse and Hound.
Horse and Hound, exactly. Dressage Monthly.
What have you missed in the last 8 months? What were the great events that you should have been at? Well, obviously it was the Olympics this year.
It was the Olympics. It was the Euros. The Euros were all over Europe. I was going to Munich. I was going to Copenhagen. I was going, Wembley, Dublin. I mean, it was all over Europe. None of that happened. Travel. That's what I slightly worry about, is that, for instance, I did Tottenham's game away at Ludogorets in the Europa League a couple of weeks ago. Well, we'd not been sending anyone to away matches in Europe, so you do it off the TV, and I fear, that's what slightly fear, is that the accountants at the office are going to go,
precisely,
did a report.
Saved us a couple.
Saved us a few.
Didn't seem to be any different. Yeah.
You can still talk to Jose Mourinho afterwards.
This
is on Zoom, you see.
This is how a lot of TV coverage is already done, isn't it? I hear tell of there are kind of basements in London where you go during a European game. There are loads of little cubicles. Down at the bottom, there's Ray Parlour and somebody from ESPN, and over there's somebody talking in Chinese, and they're all just covering the same games from.
Absolutely. That is exactly what goes on. Very, very few actually get to the stadium. And at the moment, even more so.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a significant change. The other change is the post-match press conference, which there's always a bit of tension if the team's lost. You go into a room, there's the opportunity to fire a question in. Well, on Zoom, of course, there isn't. So the press conference is done on Zoom, and the press officer is conducting it,
controlling the entire thing,
controlling it. And I suspect they'll think, that's a much better way of doing things.
Absolutely. It's a shame, because that's such a rich comic area to write about when you're a reporter, isn't it?
Well, because
it's so funny.
Press conferences, because they studiously avoid saying anything, it's all about body language. It's all about human effect, isn't it? You know what
Absolutely.
I mean?
Absolutely.
Which you don't have when they're not in the same room as, because there's always that sense of threat at sporting press conferences, I find, particularly in the era of Ferguson. You almost felt somebody was about to thump somebody. They went slightly too far,
Yes. And of course, you also get the other thing you get, which is a kind of pack mentality. So the question is followed up by someone who then follows it up. So even in a press conference where you're only allowed a couple of questions, you follow a line of thought. Well, that gets broken completely.
Yes, that's so true. Because sports journalists are always standing behind the guy who's just asked the difficult question, aren't they? Going
exactly, pushing him forward. I'm behind him.
So what else you got there, Jim, to show us?
Right, this is a boxing glove.
All right, it is indeed.
Signed by who?
Frank Bruno.
Oh,
really?
This is tremendous.
Now, the story behind this boxing glove. About 2002, I was working for The Guardian, and Frank Bruno was going to make a comeback. And we got an interview with him at his home in Essex, and went out to see him. And when we arrived, there was me and Tom Jenkins, the photographer. And when we arrived, he wasn't there, but one of his entourage said, he'll be along in a minute. When he arrived, he was very, very prickly immediately. I hadn't realized quite his kind of sense of feeling towards newspapers. He'd had some terrible times, and he came in and he said, "Oh, right, you're here to do the interview." And he goes, "Yeah." And he says, "The thing is, I won't attempt the accent." He goes, "The thing is, you don't know what it's like to be me, do you?" So I go, "No, I don't." He goes, "Right, I want you to experience what it's like doing my job." So we go out into the garden, and there in the garden is the ring that he won the world title in. He bought it. He said, "Right, you get into the ring with me." He takes off his shirt.
This is fantastic.
And he was built like a Greek god. I mean, what is huge? What a man. And he says, we're gonna have a round. And I go, what do you mean? He says, no, I'm not going to hit you. Don't worry. And he put, those pads that you put on your arms that you punch. So
take the punches. Yeah.
And he gave me a pair of boxing gloves. He says, we're going to have a round. You're going to hit me. I'm going to stop you. Take off his shirt. Now, it's just again, a Zoom issue here. But, I think probably Greek god is not the first word that would spring to mind when describing me without my shirt on.
Didn't they say Greek restaurant?
Yes. Load of smashed plates. Yeah. Anyway, pale and smashed. But so I take my shirt off, and he turns to Tom Jenkins, who's down by the bell, and he says, right, 3 minutes, 3-minute round, go. And so I start going like this, and he goes, and he's got his pads like this. He goes, hit me, hit me, hit me. Hit me harder. You hate me. You hate me. Hit me harder. I'm going, I don't hate you. I don't hate you, Frank. I don't hate you. He goes, hit me harder. Hit me harder. And then he starts pushing down on these pads, and he pushes me into the corner, and I'm in the corner going like this. And he's pushing down on me. I'm like sweating like crazy. Frank's pushing into the corner. You hate me. You really, everyone hates me. Push it. Hurt me. Hurt me. That's pathetic. Hurt me. And I'm going like that. And I turned to Tom and I said, for Christ's sake, Tom, ring the bell. He said, you've only been in there 25 seconds. So anyway, he very kindly afterwards gave me a boxing glove.
So did you do the full 3 minutes?
No, I was in such trouble with him just pushing down on me. I was kind of.
God, that's what a brilliant thing to have done. That would totally destabilise you, wouldn't it? I mean,
I know.
Have you ever done those other things that sports writers very occasionally do, like face a genuine fast bowler?
Oh yes, like that? Yeah. The two scariest things I've ever done. One was, in fact, with Tom Daley. I mentioned Tom Daley. The top of a 10-meter diving board is a terrifying place to be. And Daley, we went up there and he said, you won't be able to dive off here, just jump. And, oh my God, took me forever to get off the edge. And I did eventually, but that was completely terrifying.
You just jumped.
Just jumped. And then
belly
by far the scariest. I can't remember his name now. This is hopeless of me. I do apologize. But when Sven became England manager, he brought with him a renowned sports psychologist from Norway who was meant to be the king of sports psychology. And I went out to Oslo. This is obviously in the days before the pandemic. I went out to Oslo to interview him. And he said to me, right, I'm going to take you to a place you've not been before. And he took me out and we went up to the top of a ski jump. So we went up in the lift, up into the top of the tower of a ski jump. My God, that is the most terrifying place you could ever go. I mean, the wind, it's bending in the wind, and and this thing just goes down like vertically below you. And I said to him, okay, you're the greatest sports psychologist in the world. So I'm a ski starting at the top of this ski jump. What would you say to me? What words would you say to me? He said, looking at you, I would say, turn around and go straight back down in the lift.
The thing about ski jumpers, there's no intermediary stage where you can build up to it. You either don't do it at all, or you're doing the full thing.
Exactly.
There's no sort of tiny steps you can take on the way.
No.
Oh,
have you ever seen that Jerry Seinfeld routine about the luge? The luge is the only sport you take part in involuntarily. Somebody just launch you down there. That's your launch.
That's right. You're rattling around down this tunnel. That's right. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. What else have you got there, Jim?
Well, I found this, and I don't know. This is something of a people of a. Will only appeal to people of a certain age, and you can see how old it is.
Oh,
Subbuteo.
Wow.
And there's a little player, and this is my mum must have kept this, I think, because I dug it out when my mum died from her house because I hadn't kept it. And brilliantly, I've written the names in underneath who's playing for whoever. Anyway, I got this set out and with my son recently. And he said, "What the hell is this?" You know, and I kind of showed him what you do and so on. And this is a lad who's sort of been brought up on for computer games. And I mean, seriously, this is
what you
boring. You are kidding me. This is how you used to. I said, yeah. We used to get so angry with people about the rules. Do you remember whether you push? That's a push.
That's right. Yeah.
As in the Undertones, of course, who had my perfect cousin.
They did.
Which has got a line about the Undertones. Has got a line about he flicked a kick and I didn't know.
And the
that seemed to me summed up my early teenage years. You were constantly having rows about playing Subbuteo.
Oh, that's brilliant. Do you remember the cricket game, How's That?
Yes, How's That? With two
I've still
dice.
got one somewhere. It's a little hexagonal
little
dice.
Two little dice. God, I played that for hours.
Yeah, and it's caught, LBW, not out. You know, that's right, isn't it? It's so fun. The other amazing one, I think, is Totopoly. Do you remember? Was it Totopoly? Where you had a horse race and you wound a little handle and it kind of shook, shivered this kind of thing like a baize with little wooden jumps on it, and led horses had to negotiate their way through, which they never could. It was absolutely
brilliant, Totopoly.
Yeah.
In fact, every year in Oxford, they have a thing called the St Giles Fair, which is they shut down the whole of the centre of town, and they have a massive fair going on. In fact, outside St John's College, isn't it? On St Giles, they have.
Yeah.
And we always go, and my wife always goes on the Golden Horses, and then we go on the horse racing game, which sounds a bit like Totopoly. You have to throw discs into a tray, and the faster you throw them, the faster your horse goes. It's a huge, great big thing on the side of a lorry. It's brilliant, but it's like a kind of mechanical Totopoly.
I love the idea of trying to explain Subbuteo to a 20-year-old nowadays.
So analog.
Anyway, I mean, you know,
incredible. I mean, you know, he can do things with his controller that, you know, it's just beyond any of my comprehension. And the idea that you would sit there in front of 11 static little plastic men and get some sort of kick out of that was just beyond it.
But that's what I mean, you've got to remind them of the context. These were the days when you could only watch football on the television for about half an hour a week, couldn't you?
Exactly.
That was your lot. So, you know, you created it
anyway. To keep the dream alive. Exactly. You were.
Well, now, of course, FIFA, the football game, is so huge that they're all going to war over the rights, aren't they?
Image
rights. The agent of Pogba and Ibrahimovic and all these guys is now going to war with FIFA, demanding that they get some money out of it.
You see, I think, and this will, you know, the longer the staying away from football matches continues, the more likely this is to happen. I think the real game and the kind of digital version will eventually just fuse into one. And so you now look at TV pictures of people playing in top level stadia, and the quality of the pitch and everything just has that otherworldly sheen about it, doesn't it? It doesn't look real anymore. Do you find this? Where you look at pictures of the real thing and you think, this is getting like FIFA.
Yes, yes.
It's the same technology, you know.
Those pitches are absolutely the first.
And also, they change the colour tones, don't they? Make the sky. The weather always looks absolutely glorious. Like being at Glastonbury, and you're there in the pouring rain. You know, the days when you were, and there's the screens on the side, which is the broadcast. And it appears to be a gloriously sunny day because that's what the people at home are. That's the impression they're getting of how wonderful festivals must be.
Yeah, and they're missing out, of course. They're missing out, and there are you thinking, "I wish I was at home watching."
The blue exactly. There's the irony. Yeah.
What else you got there, Jim?
Well, I have got some records.
Go on. Have you got an early record you bought?
Yeah. I've got that one.
Okay.
I was absolutely.
You got a sticker on that. I want to know who the sticker is from and how much it was.
It says no. It just says featuring the hit single "Sound of Vision."
Right.
It was interesting. I was going through my collection, and obviously, there is nothing particularly unexpected about any of this.
Right.
I haven't played any of these for years.
We're racing through them here. This is the fastest ever. I want to go record. Yeah.
This is nothing unexpected. You would think. It shows my age. It shows who I was. It shows when I was buying records, etc. And then I came across this. Framed.
This keeps coming up, Jim, on these Word in Your Attics again and again.
It's a real fixture. Anyone who's seen them, and I saw them, it makes such a difference. Did you ever see them?
Yes. I completely forgotten how obsessed I was with the Sensational Alex Harvey Band, the greatest live act of all time.
Incredible live act. Alex Harvey climbing up into the scaffolding above the stage when I saw him doing Next, I think it was.
So what's that? The Impossible Dream by the Sensational Alex Harvey.
Right,
yeah.
One. Yeah.
And so when I was about 16, 17, going to see the Sensational Alex Harvey Band in the Free Trade Hall in Manchester, and they genuinely blew my mind. I thought it was the most exciting thing I had ever seen. And so, now I would happily play that Stevie Wonder, Songs in the Key of Life. I'd happily play Bob Marley again. It would never occur to me in a million years to play the Sensational Alex Harvey Band.
Do you think that's
such an effect on me?
No, sure. Do you think that's because you could never feel again like you felt at the age of 16? That what a group like that keys into is how you felt at the time. Whereas Stevie Wonder, you can still, 30 years later, you can get yourself into the same emotional state or whatever as that record. Whereas some records you can't. They don't travel.
But also, Alex Harvey's about a live performance, isn't it? It's remembering going to see them, which you can't reenact in your living room 30 years later.
Absolutely. And I used to go to concerts at the Free Trade Hall all the time, though not the Sex Pistols one, obviously, because there were only 17 people there, although about 10,000 people have claimed subsequently.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I used to go to concerts all the time, and I remember once I went to see Roxy Music. So this I'd have been about 14, 15. This is about 74, something like that. And I went to see Roxy Music, and I was so taken. The one and only time I've ever done this. The next day, it must have been a Friday night. The next day wasn't school. And I went and stood outside the Midland Hotel. I didn't even know that they were staying there. Went and stood outside the Midland Hotel, hoping to see them. And I was there for about 4 hours. And eventually Bryan Ferry emerged and signed my Roxy Music album. Looking rather bemused, I have to say. He thought, he was obviously just going off to some boutique to buy the latest pair of corduroy trousers, and he was confronted by a rather embarrassed 14-year-old schoolboy demanding he sign his album. And unfortunately, have you still got it? I can't find it.
Oh dear!
I was looking through, and I thought that's the one I've got to show him. But no,
you see, nowadays, if bands played Manchester, if big bands played Manchester, they wouldn't stay at the Midland Hotel, would they?
No,
they'd stay at some kind of incredibly, with some footballer's hotel or something.
They'd stay at the Lowry, which is
a
swanky place in Salford, which is where Jose Mourinho had a suite and moaned.
Oh, he lived there, didn't he, for some considerable time at vast expense?
He did.
Complaining about being away from home. That's right.
I remember once I was, I went there. I was meeting somebody there, and I came in a taxi, and there were a group of selfie gatherers outside, and momentarily, as I got out the taxi, they thought I was him.
Right.
And two or three of them kind of turned, thought, hey, it's him. And then one of them turned to the other one and said, it's all right, it's nobody.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right.
Thanks, lads. Nobody.
Yeah, we've all had that feeling.
I can remember a crowd of people waiting for a royal car to arrive, thinking he was going to be Lady Di at the absolute peak of her fame, and that got Princess Anne. And you could actually hear people just go, oh, and just put their cameras down, you know. And I really felt for her. That's agony. You know?
What was the famous one, Mark? It's always one of my favourites about when Phil Spector turned up.
Oh, God,
the Cure
yeah.
Awards.
Phil Spector, I thought Phil Spector was coming to Cure Awards. I thought this was a real cherry on the cake moment. And I'd asked him to come last to get the maximum drama out of the paparazzi waiting outside. You know, when he eventually arrived and got out of this huge, great stretch with his bodyguards and things like that, it was just dead silence because nobody recognised him. And eventually I just heard this guy go, oh, fucking hell, it's Dudley Moore. And again, all shuffled back to the bar. And I was heartbroken. God knows what he felt like.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah. There's wonderful pictures I found when I was writing my book about 1971 of the Rolling Stones at the height of their fabulousness. God, they looked absolutely like gods, you know. They did Brown Sugar, all that kind of stuff, and that they did that tour of Britain, and there are pictures of them coming out of the Newcastle Post House, which is the kind of, you know, the least glamorous hotel you've ever seen in your life, you know, is that in those days that's where they stayed, because there wasn't a kind of billionaire's tier of life for people to occupy like there is nowadays. You know what I mean? That footballers and millionaires and so forth. You probably know the answer to this question, Jim. So Jose Mourinho, currently managing Tottenham, still living presumably in Eaton Square in Chelsea, where oligarchs and so forth live. So what do? He's going to drive to Enfield every day. Now I know traffic in London is not bad at the moment, but that's got to be a real pain, hasn't it?
Yeah. Well, they do drive a long, long way. I remember interviewing Peter Crouch when he was at Stoke. And I got to the Stoke training ground at about, I think training was starting at 12, and I got him for half an hour before. I got there about 11:30, and no sign of him. And but not unusual for a footballer. About 10 to 12, no sign of him. 5 to 12, so 5 minutes before he comes running in. He said, "Oh, so sorry, mate. The train was delayed." So I said, "Oh, right. Where have you come from?" "London." So he was coming up from London. He lived in London. He was coming up to Stoke every day for training.
And then going back.
Yeah, and then going back. I mean, just extraordinary.
Well, I suppose
Jose must do that. I mean, you know, he has to go up to that swanky new training ground. Yeah, although they have got hotel rooms up in that training ground, so sometimes they stay the night up there.
Yeah.
You know, when they've got a match before, or they're going to get an early flight or whatever, they gather them all there. But going back to where people stayed. Can you see that?
Oh, the Modern Lovers Live.
Yes.
I was there when it was recorded. Go on.
Oh, were you? Where was it recorded?
Hammersmith, wasn't it? There's no Hammersmith on that 1977 tour.
So, I was at university in Bristol, and Jonathan Richman played in the University Students' Union. Glamorous or what? And as you know, he was a magnificently idiosyncratic performer. And he, at one point in the concert, he took off his shirt and got in the crowd with us and was dancing along with us. And for some reason, me and my friend thought that this was him kind of making friends with us. So we thought we were his mate because he was dancing along with us. So we were dancing with him. Then the concert ends. And then weirdly, he didn't leave, right? So I don't know whether it was because he was staying in some grotty B&B in Hotwells or something, but he didn't leave. So he kind of hung around. You know, normally they'd go off and that's it and so on. He kind of hung around and then he started talking to us. Oh, what's it like in Bristol? You know, what's good and stuff. And we were chatting away with him. And I realized he's
looking for somewhere to stay the night.
He was looking for someone to go out on the town with him. I think he was quite lonely.
Yeah,
I really do. I think he was. He was
touring on his own on that occasion.
Yeah,
he didn't have a band. Well, he would have been. There would have been no roadie or anything like that. I know Jonathan, and he would have genuinely turned up on his own.
Yeah.
And
I mean, quite incredible. I recently, in Oxford, I went to see the Happy Mondays. This maybe about 2 years ago, and my friend was a friend of their drummer, and so we went backstage and everything. And then after the gig, we got invited onto the tour bus. Now, Bez and Sean Ryder weren't speaking at the time, so they'd both gone off somewhere else. So there was the two of us, the drummer and the woman singer whose name I can't remember, and we sat around. They said, anyway, so we're in the bottom of the tour bus, fantastic, great big TV screen, all these fridges, etc. And the drummer said, would you like a drink? And my mate said, yeah, that's great. He opened the fridge and so on. And he turned to me and he said, would you like a drink? So I said, well, I don't actually drink alcohol. He goes, oh, God, hang on. And it opens another fridge. Ooh, just absolutely rammed this fridge. Ooh, I don't know what. Hang on. Open that. Oh, what's that? Yeah, that'll do. And handed me a can of tequila Sunrise. That counts as a non-alcoholic drink for the Happy
Mondays. Trying to find a non-alcoholic drink on the Happy Mondays tour bus. That's a parlour game, isn't it?
They have one of those in the morning with breakfast.
Yes, yeah. That counted as non-alcoholic drinking domain.
It counts as 1 of 5 a day, probably.
Yeah.
in the Happy Mondays. So once people talk about backstage in kind of rocks, in rock context, as if it's a very exciting kind of place, which it can be, but there's a lot of boring stuff. Have you ever been backstage in sport? Have you ever really, blundered into somewhere where you wouldn't normally be and thought, wow, this is what it's like? And have you found it exciting or boring?
Yes, I remember once taking a wrong turn in Barcelona at the Nou Camp. So the Nou Camp is a weird build. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it looks quite modest from the outside because it's all dug down.
Is that the really gigantic one? The 120,000.
Yes, it's all subterranean. I mean, so the pitch is meters down from the rest of Barcelona. It's down in the bowels of Barcelona, and then all the kind of press conference rooms and dressing rooms are even lower. And I remember going in there, and I took a wrong turn. I was going to the pre-match press conference, I think, or something like that, and I took a wrong turn, and I found myself sort of just arriving at the same time as this group of very small, very young guys, and I thought it was the Ball Boys arriving. And I sort of started walking alongside them, and they kind of nodded at me, and I thought, oh well, they'll take me along. And then I realized, no, that's not the Ball Boy, that's Iniesta. Oh, and that's Messi there. They just look so small and young and out of context. They just look so kind of fresh.
It's so funny. A few years ago, I got a friend who works on the staff at Southampton, and I got to go in the Players' Lounge after a Man City Southampton game, just a basic game. So you're amongst the players and their parents having a drink afterwards. And you got a room full of people who are normal, human beings. And then there are 11 people who look as if you're only seeing them from, you're seeing them from side on. They don't appear to have any bulk to them at all. You know what I mean? And they are the players, because they don't have any body fat at all.
They're just radiating fitness.
Yes, lean beyond fitness.
Yes. Oh yes, they do.
Because they're a different. When you're amongst rugby players, what strikes you is they're all like fridge freezers. They're all square. You can't knock them over. Whereas footballers are a different build altogether.
Yeah, completely.
And to be with them in a normal human situation is really striking.
And going what you were saying, I mean, it's policemen looking younger, but you are really struck by how young they are, which they don't look on the pitch. I think the stresses of the of movement of the game and so on, and ages them. And I remember when I was a kid.
So true.
When I was a late teenager or student, we used to hang around in Manchester in the pubs that the players used to go to. So this will mean nothing to anybody of under about 50, but players like Lou Macari and Stuart Pearson used to go to a pub round the corner from where we lived, and we'd always go there, and they looked so adult. We'd see these guys and wow, they look so adult. And then I encounter them now and they're younger than my kids. I suppose that's the point, isn't it? But something about athletic. So, if you meet Alistair Brownlee, for instance, the great triathlete who I've met a couple of times, Alistair Brownlee, when you see him running, the duress of that athletic pursuit makes him look about 2 years older. You meet him off the pitch, off the track, where, like you were saying, he just radiates health, youth, vibrancy, vigor. I mean, it's just extraordinary. It does make you feel very inadequate.
No, it's funny. I was looking at, there was a picture of the 3 Tottenham players who came on last night. They threw in a bunch of kids, 16, 17-year-olds. And you look at the 3 of them and you think, are they allowed to be in the changing room with the rest of the players? Do the rest of the team have to be CRB checked in order to be in the same room? Seriously, because they really look like adolescents, But you're so right about what you say about players. That I've always thought this on the pitch. It's strain is what makes them look older than they are.
Then when Nobby Stiles died, there was an absolutely magnificent reminiscence. I don't know if you saw it, by Mark Lawrenson, Loro of TV commentary, talking about Nobby Stiles. And Mark Lawrenson was 17 and just started playing for Preston North End's reserves. And Nobby Stiles had left Manchester United, and Bobby Charlton was the manager of Preston, brought Stiles in to be player manager of the reserve team. And he was obviously in awe of him. He was obviously in awe of him.
World Cup winner.
Playing for the player manager of the reserve team. But he was also a man of very, very odd superstitions, Stiles. And Lawrenson was recalling that one of his superstitions was he would get dressed in his kit, everything, shirt, socks, boots, shin pads, but always put his pants and shorts on last, just as he was going out onto the pitch. Very strange little superstition. Slightly odd, however, was that he was the player manager of the reserves. So he was going out onto the pitch. So he'd go through this full routine and then stand there and deliver the team talk beforehand.
And on one occasion, he forgot. No,
always without his shorts and his pants. And Laurie said, I'm 17 and I'm having to listen to this bloke telling me how I should be playing, who's, Nobby by name, Nobby by nature. I mean, So when you said CRB checks, David, they obviously didn't have them then.
Oh, Jim, it's been a delight talking to you. It's
funny.
Traditional with these things that we ask people to finish by telling us the greatest record ever made, in their opinion. Or have you shown us it already?
No. Well, it's pretty obvious where I'm going, and I don't think I'm exactly. I don't think for a moment I'm treading new waters here or breaking in anywhere. I'm sure every other person has done this, but it's going back to what I was saying about how Alex Harvey. I'd forgotten. Seriously, sorry. The memory of Alex, I've forgotten. This one, however, still lives with me. I could play it now.
Okay.
Oh,
no, it goes back.
Right.
It goes back to what you were, what everybody always knows.
So are you implying that Zal Clemenson, the look of Zal Clemenson, had some kind of impact there?
Yes.
Yeah. Because he looked incredible, didn't he?
He did, but this Spiders from Mars, Ziggy Stardust and Spiders from Mars is, it goes back to the famous thing is the greatest music is what you heard when you were 14, but it's true. I went to see David Bowie in Manchester on that tour when I was 13 or 14, and that was it. Fell in love, and the love is still there.
Right, Jim, it's been a delight talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me.
I hope we brightened your morning like you brightened ours.
You really have. That was fantastic, Jim.
Take the rest of the day off.
Word in Your Attic, a Zoom with a View.